The gleaming hull of the U.S. Defiant reflected the light of Earth's sun as Commander Alan Wright walked along its massive frame. 5 years had passed since humanity shocked the galaxy by defeating the forces that had come to enslave them. 5 years of rebuilding, of learning, of preparing. Alan ran his hand along the smooth metal of what was now Earth's flagship vessel, pride swelling in his chest. "Impressive, isn't she?" asked Chief Engineer Donna Lewis, falling into step beside him. 30% more firepower than anything the Concordat ever threw at us. Alan nodded, his eyes tracing the sleek lines of the ship. And to think we built her with their own technology. That was the irony that still made Alan smile despite everything that happened. When the Galactic Concordat voted unanimously to enslave Earth, they never expected humans to understand their technology so quickly, let alone improve upon it. "Commander Wright, Ambassador Bennett is requesting to speak with you," said a voice through his earpiece. "She says it's urgent." Alan sighed. In his experience, anything involving Lisa Bennett and the word urgent meant trouble. "Tell her I'll be in the command center in 5 minutes." The command center of Earth Defense Headquarters buzzed with activity. Screens displayed star charts, ship movements, and defense readiness reports from colonies throughout the solar system. In the 5 years since the war, humans had expanded quickly, establishing outposts on Mars, Europa, and Titan, with plans for extrasolar colonies already underway. Lisa Bennett's face appeared on the main screen when Alan entered. Her expression was tight with concern. "Alan, we have a situation," she said without preamble. "Our listening posts in the Arcturus sector have picked up unusual communications." "Define unusual," Alan replied, crossing his arms. "Encrypted Vraxian military codes. The same ones they used during the invasion." Alan felt a chill run down his spine. The Vraxians had been the most aggressive of the Concordat species, the ones who had pushed hardest for Earth's enslavement. Their warships had been the first to arrive in Earth's orbit, demanding surrender. "I thought we destroyed their fleet," he said. Lisa shook her head. "We destroyed what they sent here. The Vraxians are an empire spanning 12 star systems. What we faced was just a fraction of their military might." Ellen turned to the tactical officer, Ryan Baker. "Show me the Arcturus sector." The screen shifted to display a region of space 50 light-years from Earth. Red dots indicated unusual activity patterns. "There's something else," Lisa continued. "Our intelligence suggests they're not alone. Representatives from at least 7 other Concordat species have been meeting in secret." Alan's mind flashed back to the day the invasion began. He had been a captain then, commanding a small destroyer. He remembered watching in horror as the alien armada appeared in Earth's skies. He remembered the transmission sent to every device on the planet. By unanimous vote of the Galactic Concordat, Earth is hereby claimed as a resource world. All humans are now property of the Concordat. Resistance will result in extermination. No one expected Earth to resist as fiercely as it did. No one expected humans to capture alien vessels intact, to reverse engineer their technology, to turn the tide so dramatically. "Sir," called out Communications Officer Julie Chen, "we're receiving a transmission from deep space. Well, I've never seen a signal pattern like this before." "Put it through," Alan ordered. The speakers crackled with static before resolving into a voice that sounded neither human nor like any alien language they had encountered during the war. "Descendants of the progenitors," the voice said in strangely accented English. "The time of awakening approaches. The enemy of all life stirs from its slumber. You must prepare." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the command center in silence. "What the hell was that?" Alan asked finally. Lisa's face on the screen had gone pale. "I don't know, but I can tell you this. I've seen reports from 3 different species, all receiving similar messages in their own languages." Alan stared at the star chart, the red dots of Vraxian activity, and felt a growing certainty that the peace Earth had fought so hard to win was about to end. "Get the Defiant ready for launch," he said. "Whatever's coming, I want us to meet it head-on. Jack Miller shifted uncomfortably in his disguise. The synthetic skin covering his human features itched terribly, but it was necessary to pass as a Talaxian trader in this shadowy corner of space. He sat quietly in the back of the dim meeting hall, recording everything through his ocular implants. High Marshal Cactor of the Vraxian Empire stood at the center of the gathering, his scaled skin gleaming under the pale lights. Representatives from 7 other species huddled around him, all former members of the Galactic Concordat that had voted to enslave Earth. The humans have grown too powerful, too quickly, Cactor growled, his mandibles clicking with agitation. They have taken our technology and improved upon it in ways we never imagined possible. Jack kept his expression neutral despite his pride at the fear in the alien's voice. Humans had been underestimated, and now these species were paying the price. They have established colonies beyond their solar system, continued American diplomat, her gelatinous form pulsing anxiously. Their ships have been spotted in territories that once belonged to our empires. Cactor slammed his clawed hand on the table. But now we have found a solution. Our archaeologists have discovered the Void Scepter. A hushed silence fell over the gathering. Jack leaned forward slightly, making sure his implants captured everything. The ancient texts speak of its power, Cactor said. It can manipulate the fabric of space-time itself. With it, we can create a disruption field that will disable all technology within Earth's solar system. Their ships will fail. Their defenses will crumble. Jack felt his blood run cold. He needed to get this information back to Earth immediately. As the meeting continued, Jack carefully slipped toward the exit. He had almost reached the door when a Vraxian guard turned suddenly, his eyes narrowing. "You there. Identify yourself." Jack bolted, abandoning stealth for speed. Alarms blared as he sprinted through the corridors of the station. He needed to reach his ship. Back on Earth, Dr. Susan Kelly stood in her laboratory, surrounded by alien artifacts recovered during the war. For 5 years, she had been studying these objects, trying to understand the technology that had nearly conquered Earth. Her assistant, Paul Rivers, entered the lab with excitement. "Dr. Kelly, the power fluctuations in Artifact 17 have changed. It's responding to something." Susan hurried over to examine the black, pyramidal object they had recovered from a damaged Vraxian ship. For years it had been dormant, but now its surface glowed with symbols they had never seen before. "The patterns are similar to star charts," she said, studying the holographic display. "But these stars aren't in any configuration we've mapped." Hall pointed to a pulsing dot near the edge of the display. "That looks like a destination marker of some kind." Susan frowned. "These coordinates point to uncharted space, far beyond Concordat territory. Why would this activate now, after all this time?" Her thoughts were interrupted by an urgent message. "Dr. Kelly, please report to Defense Command immediately. Priority Alpha." Across the galaxy, a massive explosion rocked the human colony on horizon. Buildings crumbled as Vraxian battleships descended through the atmosphere, weapons blazing. Colony Governor Charlie West rushed to the emergency bunker, shouting into his communicator. "This is Horizon Colony requesting immediate assistance. We are under attack by Concordat forces. Repeat, we are under attack." The transmission cut off as another explosion hit the communication center. On the bridge of the U.S. Defiant, Commander Alan Wright received the distress call. His face hardened as he turned to his crew. "Set course for Horizon, maximum speed," he ordered. "And notify Earth Command that the Concordat has returned." The Defiant's engines flared to life as it accelerated away from Earth. The massive ship, built from the ruins of the last war, carried humanity's best weapons and brightest minds. But even as the Defiant raced toward Horizon, Alan knew they might be too late. The attack was too well coordinated, too sudden. This wasn't just revenge. The Concordat remnants were executing a plan they had been preparing for years. And somewhere in enemy territory, Jack Miller was running for his life. carrying information that could save humanity from a second war of extinction. Ambassador Lisa Bennett sat across from the LRN representatives in the secure meeting room. The two aliens looked almost human except for their silvery skin and large, pupil-less eyes. Unlike most species in the Concordat, the Elorans had secretly helped humans during the invasion. "We appreciate this meeting, Ambassador," said Seleth, the elder Eloran. Not all species agreed with the decision to enslave Earth, though few dared speak against it. Lisa nodded. "Your people took great risks to help us. Earth hasn't forgotten that." "We bring urgent news," said the second Eloran, Talon. "Several species have formed an underground resistance against High Marshal Cactor and his allies. We believe their goal is not just revenge against humans, but control of the entire galaxy." "And why should we trust this information?" asked General Peter Walsh, who stood rigid by the door. "The last time we trusted aliens, billions died." Lisa shot him a warning look. Walsh had lost his family during the initial invasion and made no secret of his hatred for all non-humans. "We understand your suspicion," Seleth said calmly. "But the void scepter that Cactor seeks is more dangerous than you realize. It was created to fight something ancient and terrible." Back in her laboratory, Dr. Susan Kelly worked frantically to decode the star maps projected by the alien artifact. The pulsing symbols had begun to move, forming new patterns that seemed to be leading somewhere specific. Hall Rivers rushed into the lab, his face pale. "Dr. Kelly, we've received word from Commander Wright. The Defiant arrived at Horizon Colony, but they were too late. Half the colony is destroyed." Susan closed her eyes briefly, absorbing the news. "Any survivors?" "Yes. The colonists reached the emergency bunkers in time. But that's not all." Paul handed her a datapad. "They found this transmission recorded just before the attack." Susan played the recording. It showed the same strange language they had heard days earlier, but this time with images, star patterns identical to those projected by her artifact. "These aren't just coordinates," she whispered. "They're warnings." On a Vraxian battleship hovering over the smoking ruins of Horizon Colony, Jack Miller lay strapped to an interrogation table. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye as High Marshal Cactor loomed over him. "How much did you hear, human?" Kizaktor demanded. "What have you told your leaders?" Jack managed a painful smile. "Enough to know you're scared of us." The Vraxian struck him across the face. "Scared? We conquered 100 worlds before your species learned to leave its planet." "Then why did you run when we fought back?" Jack asked, spitting blood. "Why gather in secret instead of facing us directly?" Cactor's eyes narrowed. "You know nothing of what's coming. The prophecies speak of the awakening. When the descendants rise, the void will follow." "What void?" Jack asked, but Cactor had already turned away, barking orders to his subordinates. "Prepare the scepter for transport. The attack on Horizon was just a distraction. Our real target awaits." Jack struggled against his restraints, feeling one beginning to loosen. If he could free himself and reach a communication terminal, he might still warn Earth about whatever the Vraxians were planning. Aboard the U.S. Defiant, Alan Wright surveyed the destruction of Horizon Colony from orbit. The settlement was still burning in places, though emergency teams had managed to control the worst of it. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're picking up a faint distress signal. It's coming from a Vraxian vessel near the edge of the system." Alan frowned. "A trap?" "I don't think so, sir. It's on an old Earth frequency, one we haven't used since the war." "Put it through," Alan ordered. Static filled the bridge before a weak voice came through. "This is Jack Miller, Earth Intelligence. The attack on Horizon. It's not their main objective." The transmission cut off abruptly. "Can we trace that?" Alan asked. "Yes, sir. Signal originated from a Vraxian command ship leaving the system." Alan's jaw tightened. "Set pursuit course. And contact Earth Command. Tell them Jack Miller is alive, and he needs extraction." As the Defiant changed course, Alan had no way of knowing that Jack's last words before losing consciousness were the most important of all. They're not after revenge. They're afraid. The medical bay of the U.S. Defiant was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors. Jack Miller lay on a bed, his face bruised but healing. Commander Alan Wright sat beside him, waiting patiently for the intelligence officer to wake. When Jack finally opened his eyes, Alan leaned forward. "Welcome back. We extracted you from the Vraxian ship 3 days ago." Jack tried to sit up, wincing in pain. "Commander, I need to tell you what I learned. It changes everything we thought we knew about the war." "Take it slow," Alan advised, helping Jack to a sitting position. "The vote to enslave Earth," Jack said, his voice hoarse. "It wasn't just about resources or territory. The Concordat species have ancient prophecies about humans." Alan frowned. "Prophecies. They call us descendants of the progenitors. Some of their oldest texts describe humans as either saviors of the galaxy or its destroyers." Jack paused to take a sip of water Alan offered. "The Concordat chose to enslave us because they were afraid of what we might become." Meanwhile, Dr. Susan Kelly stood before Earth's Defense Council, presenting her findings. Holographic displays showed the strange symbols from the alien artifact. "The radiation patterns found on Earth are unique in the galaxy," she explained. "This radiation affected human DNA during our evolution, giving us capabilities that other species lack." General Walsh scoffed. "What capabilities? We were nearly wiped out when they attacked." "But we weren't wiped out," Susan countered. "We adapted to their technology faster than any species they had encountered before. And there's more." She displayed images of brain scans. "Human neural patterns allow us to interface with certain alien technologies in ways other species cannot." Ambassador Lisa Bennett spoke up. "The Aelorans mentioned something similar. They said humans have a potential that frightens the older species." Susan nodded. "The coordinates from the artifact point to a location outside known space. I believe whatever is there will explain why humans are different." Back on the Defiant, Alan considered Jack's information. "So you're saying the Concordat enslaved us because of some ancient prophecy?" "Not just that," Jack said, growing stronger. "They're after something called the Void Scepter because they believe it can neutralize human abilities. But there's something else they fear even more than us, something they call the Void." Alan's communication device beeped. "Commander, we've received new orders from Earth Command. We're to proceed to coordinates being transmitted by Dr. Kelly's team." In the darkness of deep space, far from any star system, the Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Before them floated what appeared to be an ancient space station, its design unlike anything human or Concordat. "Sensors detect no life forms," reported the science officer. "But there are energy readings. The station appears to be in standby mode." Alan assembled an exploration team including himself, Dr. Kelly, who had joined the mission, and Security Chief Maria Rodriguez. They boarded a shuttle and approached the mysterious station. "Look at the design," Susan said in awe as they neared. "The proportions, the doorways, they're made for human bodies." Once aboard, they walked through silent corridors that lit up as they passed. Susan ran her hand over strange markings on the walls. "These symbols match the ones from our artifact," she said. They reached what appeared to be a central chamber. As Alan stepped inside, panels around the room began to glow. "It's responding to your presence," Susan said excitedly. A holographic image appeared in the center of the room. A humanoid figure whose features seemed almost human but not quite. "Greetings, children of Earth," the figure said in perfect English. "If you are seeing this message, then the time of awakening has come." The team stared in shock at the hologram. "I am Aaron, last guardian of the Progenitor legacy," the figure continued. "You who stand before me are not merely human. You are the descendants of those who seeded life throughout this galaxy." Alan and Susan exchanged stunned looks as the hologram continued. "Your genetic code contains markers that were bred out of other species. You are the inheritors of our legacy." and of our war. The hologram's face grew solemn. For the enemy we fought still exists, sleeping between the stars. And now, it stirs once more. The ancient station hummed with power as Alan, Susan, and Maria explored deeper into its structure. Corridors lit up as they walked, systems activating after countless years of dormancy. This technology is far beyond anything the Concordat possesses, Susan said, scanning the walls with her device. I'd estimate this station is at least 50,000 years old, possibly much older. They entered a large circular room filled with what looked like control panels. When Alan approached one, it illuminated at his touch. Symbols appeared, similar to those they had seen on the artifact. It's responding to you, Maria noted, her hand resting on her weapon. As security chief, she remained alert for any threats. Susan studied the symbols. I think these are navigation controls. The station likely has archives, weapons systems, possibly even engines. Alan placed his palm flat on the main console. The entire room came alive, walls transforming into view screens showing star patterns and data streams. Welcome, Descendant, said the hologram of Aaron, appearing beside them. This station contains the legacy of the progenitors. We were the first advanced civilization in this galaxy, and we seeded many worlds with life. Including Earth? Alan asked. Yes, but your world was special. The radiation from your sun and the unique minerals in your soil created conditions for human development that were different from other seeded worlds. Susan stepped forward. The other alien species, did you create them too? They evolved from our seeding program, but over millions of years they were bred for compliance and stability. Only on Earth did we preserve the full genetic potential of our line. Why? Maria asked bluntly. The hologram's expression grew solemn. Because we were losing our war against the void. The hologram waved a hand, and a room transformed to show a dark, writhing mass consuming stars. The void is not a metaphor, Aaron continued. It is an entity that exists outside normal spacetime. It consumes civilizations that reach a certain technological threshold. We fought it to a standstill, but could not defeat it. So you created us as what? Weapons? Alan asked, his voice tight. Not weapons. Successors. You retain certain genetic markers that allow you to interact with our technology in ways other species cannot. You can perceive realities they cannot see. The radiation of your homeworld enhanced these abilities. Susan moved to another console, which activated at her touch. This is why the Concordat feared us. Their ancient texts warned them about humans. Yes, the hologram confirmed. Many species retained fragmented memories of the war in their mythology. They recognized in humans the traits of their ancient creators and feared what would happen if you reached your full potential. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. Maria rushed to a screen showing the space outside. Commander, we have company. Multiple Vraxian ships approaching fast. Alan grabbed his communicator. Defiant, report. Sir, 5 Vraxian battleships just dropped out of FTL, came the response. They're charging weapons. The hologram of Aaron flickered. The station's defensive systems are activating. I suggest your people take cover. Outside, the Vraxian ships opened fire on the station. Energy weapons blazed across the darkness of space, striking the ancient structure. But instead of causing damage, the blasts seemed to be absorbed by an invisible shield. Remarkable, Susan whispered, watching as the station's systems responded. The station trembled slightly, then emitted pulses of blue energy that shot toward the attacking ships. The pulses passed through the Vraxian shields as if they weren't there, causing the ships to drift powerless. Alan's communicator beeped. Commander, the Vraxian flagship is hailing us. Put it through, Alan ordered. The harsh face of High Marshal Cactor appeared on one of the station's screens. For the first time, Alan saw fear in the alien's eyes. You have no idea what you've done by activating that station, Cactor said. You've begun the awakening. Explain yourself, Alan demanded. The ancient enemy stirs, Hector replied. We sought the Void Scepter not to harm your species, but to prevent this very moment. As if in response to his words, sensors throughout the station began to wail. Susan rushed to a console. Something's coming, she said, her voice hushed with awe and terror. Something massive is approaching from beyond the galaxy's edge. Alan looked at the hologram of Aaron, who nodded gravely. The Void has sensed the station's activation, the hologram said. And now, it comes to finish what it started millennia ago. The Vraxian ships hung disabled in space, caught in the station's defensive field. Inside the command center, Alan faced the holographic image of High Marshal Hector on one screen and the Progenitor AI Aaron on another. The Void is not a concept or a metaphor, Hector said, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. It is an ancient entity that consumes civilizations when they reach a certain level of advancement. Why didn't you just tell us this instead of trying to enslave us? Alan demanded. Would you have believed us? Hector's mandibles clicked in what might have been a bitter laugh. The texts warned that when the descendants awakened to their potential, the Void would return. We sought to control your development to prevent this very moment. Susan studied the sensor readings with growing concern. Commander, the anomaly is accelerating toward our position. At current speed, it will arrive in less than 6 hours. The hologram of Aaron spoke. The Void consumes the energy of advanced civilizations. It is drawn to technological advancement like a predator to prey. When it arrives, it will begin feeding on all technological worlds in this galaxy, starting with those nearest to this station. Maria stepped forward. So Earth is in danger because we found this place. Not just Earth, Hector said. All worlds of the former Concordat. All civilizations in this galaxy. Alan turned to the Progenitor hologram. You must have fought this thing before. How do we stop it? We could not defeat it, Aaron replied. We fought it to a standstill using technology housed within this station, forcing it to retreat beyond the galaxy's edge. But we knew it would return someday when new civilizations arose. Which is why you created humans with the ability to use your technology, Susan concluded. Yes. You were our contingency plan. When the Void returned, we needed descendants who could operate our defensive systems. Aaron gestured, and a new hologram appeared showing complex machinery deep within the station. This is the Nexus core. It can channel human neural energy through the station to create a weapon capable of harming the Void. Alan's communicator beeped with an urgent signal from Earth. Ambassador Lisa Bennett's face appeared on another screen. Commander Wright, sensors across the solar system are detecting a massive anomaly heading toward your position. General Walsh has ordered all available ships to your location. No, Alan said quickly. Tell them to stay away. Any ships near this station, when that thing arrives, will be the first to be consumed. Lisa looked confused. What exactly are we dealing with, Alan? The real enemy, he replied. The reason the Concordat feared us. I need you to begin immediate evacuation of Earth's major cities into underground shelters and contact the Elloran representatives. We need to warn all species. As Alan gave orders, Hector spoke again. Commander Wright, I request permission to dock with the station. Our scientists have studied the ancient texts for generations. We may be able to help. Alan considered briefly, then nodded. Permission granted. But any sign of treachery, and the station's defenses will destroy your ship. Susan called Alan to a console showing new readings. Look at this. The station is sending out signals to other locations across the galaxy. I think there might be more Progenitor installations out there. Can we activate them? Alan asked. Not from here, Aaron responded. Each must be awakened by human touch, just as you awakened this one. The station trembled slightly as the Vraxian shuttle docked. Minutes later, Hector entered the command center with 3 other aliens. We bring the Void Scepter, he said, holding up a crystalline rod that pulsed with dark energy. It was not designed as a weapon against humans, but as a key to channel energy against the void. Aaron's hologram studied the scepter. Yes, this is one of the control rods for the Nexus core. As they spoke, a sensor alarm blared loudly. Everyone turned to the main view screen, which showed normal space beginning to distort hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. "It's here," Susan whispered. The distortion grew, stars behind it bending and then disappearing. A vast darkness spread across space, seeming to swallow light itself. "The void," Kazaktor said, his voice hushed with dread. Alan watched as the cosmic horror approached, understanding at last why the Concordat had feared human development. They hadn't been trying to prevent humanity's rise. They had been trying to prevent the end of all life in the galaxy. "How do we fight that?" Maria asked, her hand instinctively moving to her weapon, though she knew it would be useless. "Together," Alan said firmly. "We fight it together." The emergency summit took place in Earth's orbital station, with representatives from both human colonies and alien worlds attending either in person or through holographic projections. Ambassador Lisa Bennett stood at the center of the diplomatic chamber, addressing the gathered delegates. 5 years ago, every species represented here voted to enslave humanity, she said, her voice firm but not accusatory. Today, we face extinction together. The holographic display showed the void as it consumed an uninhabited star system near the Progenitor station. The darkness spread like ink in water, leaving nothing behind. "The void has already destroyed 3 star systems," Lisa continued. "According to the Progenitor Eye, it will continue consuming everything in its path unless we stop it." General Walsh stepped forward, his military uniform crisp despite the crisis. "Earth has mobilized its entire defense fleet, but conventional weapons are useless against this entity." American representatives spoke up, their gelatinous form pulsing with anxiety. "Our scientists confirm what the Vraxians have told us. The void cannot be harmed by any technology we possess. Because it feeds on technology," added Xactor, who attended via hologram from the Progenitor station. "The more advanced the civilization, the more it desires to consume it." Tension filled the room. Centuries of distrust made cooperation difficult, especially when facing such an overwhelming threat. "The Progenitor station holds the key," Lisa said. "It contains technology designed specifically to fight the void, but it requires human neural patterns to operate. So humans will save us all?" asked a Talaxian diplomat with clear skepticism. "The same humans we tried to enslave because ancient warnings told us they would bring destruction." "The prophecies weren't wrong," Susan Kelly replied. She had returned to Earth to lead the scientific effort. "Humans did trigger the void's awakening, but we were also designed to fight it." General Walsh slammed his fist on the table. "I say we use the Progenitor technology to protect Earth and let the Concordat worlds fend for themselves. They showed us no mercy when they came to enslave us." Murmurs of agreement came from some of the human delegates, but Lisa raised her hand for silence. "If we abandon the former Concordat worlds, the void will only grow stronger with each civilization it consumes. Eventually, it will come for Earth too." She looked around the room. "Our only chance is to work together." On the view screen, Commander Alan Wright appeared from the Progenitor station. "Ambassador Bennett is right. The station's data shows that the progenitors fought the void to a stalemate but couldn't defeat it. They scattered their descendants across the galaxy, hoping evolution would eventually produce beings capable of finishing what they started." "What exactly are you proposing?" asked another alien representative. "An alliance," Lisa answered. "Earth will share the Progenitor technology in exchange for formal recognition of human sovereignty and assistance in the fight against the void." The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates argued against trusting humans with such power, while others saw no alternative. Finally, Kehector spoke again. "The Vraxian Empire formally recognizes Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territories, and we pledge our remaining military forces to this alliance." One by one, other species followed suit. The Americans, the Talaxians, and 7 other former Concordat members pledged to the alliance. At the Progenitor station, Alan led a team deep into its core, following Aaron's holographic guide. They reached a vast chamber filled with crystalline structures connected to what looked like control chairs. "This is the Nexus core," Aaron explained. "Here, humans can channel their neural energy through the station's systems to create a weapon capable of harming the void." "How many humans would it take?" Alan asked, examining the chairs. "At minimum, 7, but more would create a stronger effect." Maria Rodriguez stepped forward. "I volunteer." "So do I," Alan said, sitting in one of the chairs. It immediately responded to his presence, controls illuminating around him. "We need more volunteers," he said into his communicator. "And we need them fast." Back on Earth, Susan Kelly addressed a room of potential volunteers. "I won't lie to you. We don't know exactly what connecting to the Nexus core will do to a human mind, but without volunteers, there will be no galaxy left to save." Dozens of hands raised immediately. Humanity had spent 5 years rebuilding from near destruction. They wouldn't let the darkness win without a fight. Lisa Bennett watched from the diplomatic chamber as the first transport ships carrying human volunteers launched toward the Progenitor station. Behind them flew escort vessels from 8 different alien species, former enemies now united against a common threat. "They came to enslave us," she said quietly. "Now they fly alongside us as allies." A combined fleet of human and alien ships formed a defensive perimeter around the Progenitor station. Inside the Nexus core, 7 humans sat in the ancient control chairs. Alan Wright occupied the central position, with Maria Rodriguez and 5 volunteers from Earth in the others. The void had grown larger as it consumed nearby star systems. Its darkness spread across space like living ink, tendrils reaching toward the station. "The entity is approaching final attack range," reported a Vraxian officer from their command ship. In the station's control room, Susan Kelly monitored the humans connected to the Nexus core. Their vital signs remained stable, but their brain activity had increased dramatically. "Their neural patterns are synchronizing with the station's systems," she told Sachter, who stood beside her. The High Marshal nodded. "The ancient texts spoke of this. The progenitors called it the harmony, when human minds and their technology work as one." In the Nexus core, Alan felt his consciousness expanding. He could sense the other volunteers, their thoughts merging with his. Together, they perceived the station as if it were part of their bodies. More surprisingly, they could sense the void itself. "It's aware," Alan said, his voice echoing strangely. "It knows we're here." Through the neural link, Alan directed the station's energy collectors to power up. The structure hummed as energy flowed through conduits that had been dormant for millennia. Outside, the first tendrils of the void reached the defensive perimeter. Ships fired weapons that passed harmlessly through the darkness. American cruiser was caught by a tendril and simply ceased to exist, erased from reality. "Fall back to secondary positions," ordered the fleet commander. "We need to buy the station more time." In the diplomatic chamber on Earth, Ambassador Bennett and the alien representatives watched the battle through real-time transmissions. Many bowed their heads, believing the end had come. "The ships cannot stop it," said an Elleran diplomat softly. "They don't need to stop it," Lisa replied. "They just need to slow it down." In the Nexus core, the 7 humans channeled their combined consciousness through the station's systems. The void scepter, placed in a receptacle at the center of the chamber, glowed with increasing brightness. "I can see it now," Alan said, his eyes closed but his mind wide open. "I can see what it fears." The void sent more tendrils toward the station, sensing the building energy. 3 more ships vanished from existence as they intercepted the tendrils. "Now," Alan commanded. The humans released their combined energy through the station. A beam of pure white light shot from the station's central spire, striking the heart of the void. For the first time, the darkness recoiled. "Again," Alan directed. Another beam fired, then another. Each blast pushed the void back, forcing it to retreat from the systems it had consumed. The humans in the Nexus core began to struggle, the strain of channeling such power taking its toll. Alan felt his consciousness starting to fracture. One final push, he told the others through their shared link. Everything we have. They summoned their remaining strength and directed it through the void scepter. The crystal rod shattered, releasing a wave of energy that expanded outward in a perfect sphere. When it touched the void, the darkness screeched, a sound felt rather than heard. The void retreated, pulling back from the galaxy at incredible speed, returning to the darkness between galaxies from which it had come. In the aftermath, the combined fleet regrouped around the station. Alan and the other volunteers were carefully disconnected from the Nexus core. They were weak but alive, forever changed by what they had experienced. 1 month later, representatives from every species that had once voted to enslave Earth gathered in the Grand Hall of the new Galactic Alliance headquarters in Geneva. High Marshal Kector stepped forward to sign the Alliance Charter, formally recognizing Earth as a founding member with full sovereignty. "We came to enslave you," he said to Alan and Lisa, who represented Earth at the ceremony. "Now we stand together as allies. The void will return someday," Alan reminded him. "We didn't destroy it, only drove it back. And when it does, we will be ready," Lisa added, "not as masters and slaves, but as equals." As Alan looked around the room at species that had once been enemies, he realized that humanity had shown mercy not through weakness but through strength. Earth had become the center of a new defensive pact, with humans recognized not as conquerors or subjects, but as the galaxy's protectors. The species that had voted to enslave Earth now stood with humanity as the light against the darkness that threatened them all.